It's no secret. I love zombie games. Zombie games have always been a big staple of my life, looking at things like Call of Duty Zombies, looking at Left 4 Dead 2. But today we're going to be going over my personal top 5 zombie games. Now, do note that this is all personal opinion. If you don't like my list, that is completely okay. My list may be different from another person's list, and that's fine. So if you don't like it, feel free to drop a dislike and tell me what your list is in the comment section. So yeah, let's get started off at number 5. Starting off at number 5, I have the very first Dead Rising game. Dead Rising to me was wow. It was just wow. When I first played Dead Rising for the first time, I think back in 2010, I think right before Dead Rising 2 came out, I was blown away, and the game, although it had a lot of goofy shit within it, it really creeped me out at the same time, because how it really felt was you are trapped in a mall with a shit ton of zombies. Now, granted, they weren't like any super special zombies, it was just walkers, but even then, you are trapped in a fucking shopping mall with zombies. It was kind of like Dawn of the Dead, except the zombies were already in the mall to begin with. It wasn't like Dawn of the Dead where the bikers completely break down the doors and shit and all the zombies start piling in. No, they were already inside. But the overall atmosphere, the tone of the game, while being goofy at moments, still tended to creep me out, and it tended to have very serious moments at times. And not to mention the psychopaths. The psychopaths were really interesting. I think the scariest ones were probably like the butcher, the dude who's in the meat cutting room or whatever. And also the Vietnam War veteran was creepy as fuck too, like he was scary. But overall, Dead Rising 1, it played a really big part of my childhood growing up. And the second one, really, wow, the second one was good too. But Dead Rising 1, nothing will ever beat the atmosphere, the tone, and the setting of that game, no matter how hard they try. Anyway, on to the next game. Dying Light to me is one of those games where someone was just like, hey, let's make a zombie game, but let's just add parkour into it. And it worked out insanely well because Dying Light is an amazing game. Now, granted, I think the game is very much glazed, but even though I think it's glazed, that doesn't mean I think it's a bad game. Dying Light 1 will always be an amazing game to me. I loved doing so much in that game. I loved playing the following DLC. The main story, basically, even though the story wasn't perfect, it was still fun. And not to mention, one of my favorite things to do in that game was the prison raid. That was a blast, and you got really good gear at the end if you did it in a very specific time frame. Overall, Dying Light 1 was just a big wowzers of a game. It was like a sandbox, basically. Once you beat the game, it's all yours. It is just a massive sandbox. The tone of the game was just very interesting because you drop in, you're a GRE agent, you're supposed to, I can't exactly remember. It's been a while since I played the story, but you're a GRE agent. You drop in, you get fucking bit, and you're supposed to be going on all these quests for the tower. You're like working for Rise for a minute and stuff, and it's just, yeah. But the tone of the game really just made you feel like, wow, this place has really gone to shit. And not to mention the bridge where I think it connects to Old Town. That is another thing that really had me like, wow, because they tried blowing up the bridge and that didn't fucking work. Overall, Dying Light 1 was also a big part of my childhood. I loved playing Dying Light 1. It will always be embedded in my mind, doing the prison raid, going to the bridge just so I can get some fucking gauze and bandages, and just Kyle Crane as a whole, because Kyle Crane was awesome, played by Roger Craig Smith. Anyway, next game. Coming in at number 3, it is The Walking Dead Season 1. While not as Not exactly like the other games on this list, The Walking Dead Season 1 is an amazing story where you play as Lee, a man who's going to prison for, well, killing a fucking guy. And in the middle of, you being transported, the zombie outbreak happens, I believe in I can't exactly remember. It's on the east side of the United States, but like more down south. But basically the zombie outbreak begins and you follow along the story of Lee. Like I said, it's not like the other zombie games where it's like an open world or whatever. It's it's a Telltale game, so it's told from a very story, kind of bookish perspective. But that's not a bad thing at all. That's a good thing. Because, honestly, this game is just perfect. It's like a perfect story. Now, granted, I like more gameplay in a sense, but this is good. I like what this game does because it really gets you wrapped around these characters and you start to fall in love with characters like Lee and Clementine and Kenny and all these other characters, and you also start to hate characters like Larry because Larry was a fucking asshole. We didn't like Larry. But overall, The Walking Dead Season 1 holds so many memories for me, and it always will. You could say I'm just blinded by nostalgia, which in a sense I kind of am. But can you really blame me? This game was very highly regarded by many different people. Fuck, it even made PewDiePie cry in a video. If you can make PewDiePie cry, then, hey, I say that's a good game in my book. But this game holds so much weight onto it, and I love it. It had so much impact on me when I played it, and when Lee died, bro, I was shook, bro. I was shook. I mean, his voice actor even fucking cried after he died, so, yeah. Anyway, The Walking Dead Season 1, its atmosphere as well. You really feel these people are trying to survive. You feel the survival, you feel the depression, you feel the sadness, and you also see moments of depravity in this story. If you remember the whole situation with the cannibals on the farm, yeah, that was crazy. They were just a bunch of depraved maniacs who just ate people. But yeah, The Walking Dead Season 1, number 3 spot. Let's move on. So if you've been keeping up with the past couple of streams I've been doing, you know that I like this zombie game called Project Zomboid. That is my number 2 favorite zombie game of all time. Zomboid is one of the most interesting games I have ever played, as I've never played a single game like it. Sure, I've played my fair share of zombie survival games. I played 7 Days to Die. I'm not gonna lie, I think that game's insanely boring. But Project Zomboid is something else. That game drops you in, and it gives you a couple of tips. Maybe you even play the tutorial. But that game does not fucking hold your hand at all when you play. It doesn't matter what mode you play on. You play on Survivor, you play on Apocalypse, you play on Builder, or you just play in Custom Sandbox. That game is not going to help your hand. It's not going to hold your hand. It's not going to tell you what to do. Everything you do is on your own. And the thing that's really crazy about it is any minor mistake you make can come back to bite you in the ass. So like, let's just say, oh yeah, you accidentally smacked the hood of your car. Yeah, guess what? Your car is probably going to shut the fuck down later. Overall, Project Zomboid also has such a great vibe to it, and it has so much ambience. Because when you're playing the game, in the background, you'll hear like people screaming sometimes, or you'll hear gunshots, or you'll hear helicopters. There is just so much going for that game, and Indie Stone did such an amazing job creating it, and I can't wait for the next couple of updates to come out, because that's really going to make the game amazing. Especially with Build 42. Build 42 is going to add so many new features as well, like sub-levels where you can go under the map, because the thing is with the game is it's isometric, which means like it's kind of on like a whole grid system, if that makes sense. And the map as a whole, it's not a 3D map. It's actually 2-dimensional. The only thing that's 3-dimensional is your character. and the zombies. But overall, Project Zomboid, I love this game, but I don't love it as much as the next one. But before we even think about getting to the next one, let's talk about some honorable mentions. For my first honorable mention, let's talk about Resident Evil 4. Now, you guys might kill me for saying this because, yeah, and fuck, you guys probably are going to kill me because I don't have any Resident Evil games in my top 5. But that doesn't mean I dislike them. But Resident Evil 4 is amazing. It is great. And I'm talking about both the original Resident Evil 4 and the new Resident Evil 4. They're both solid games. I think they're great. I love everything they do. I love how they both play. I mean, the remake kind of just plays like Resident Evil 2 and 3 with like kicks and shit. Oh, and a parry system. But the original was so fucking good when I played it. I loved the way it felt for an old game, and I loved how they handled the chainsaw guys. The thing I really disliked in Resident Evil 4 Remake is the fact that the chainsaw guys, they're kind of underwhelming because you can just parry them. What made them so scary, I think their name was like Dr. Salvador or something, but what made them so scary in Resident Evil 4 Original is if they even got remotely close to you, they will one-shot kill you, which sounds really frustrating, but they don't take super long to take down, so you can just pop them in the head over and over again until they're dead. Even then, though, they brought some sort of challenge to the game, and unlike Resident Evil 5, where they have a whole cutscene, in the village, bro just comes out of nowhere. Resident Evil 4 is an amazing game, and it has an amazing remake, and if you haven't played them, go check them out. They're awesome. Anyway, next honorable mention. So remember when I was talking about Dying Light 1? Yeah, well, let's talk about Dying Light 2. Dying Light 2 is actually a very stellar game, and I actually quite enjoy it. However, it is by no means as good as the first one. Some people may disagree, and that's completely okay. I personally don't think it is as good as Dying Light 1. However, what I do like about it is its melee combat is amazing. I think the melee combat in this game is actually better than Dying Light 1's because they updated the animations over time and they just made the melee combat feel a lot better. Not to mention, when they did the guns update, guns felt so good. My big gripe with Dying Light 1 was that the gun animations were kind of just crappy and lazy, but in this game, the gun animations are fucking beautiful. It's like they came straight out of Call of Duty. But Dying Light 2, the thing I don't really like is its floaty parkour, and I know what someone's going to say, you can change the parkour to feel more classical, and while I get that, even when I change it, it still, in some areas, feels kind of floaty. In some areas. But by no means is Dying Light 2 a bad game. It's gotten the Cyberpunk treatment where it's gotten better over time. But there's still a lot of things I dislike. One of the things I dislike about it is the fact that it has a weaker story than Dying Light 1. Because the thing with Dying Light 2 is it tries insanely hard to be this super deep RPG story. And Dying Light 1, while it kind of tries to be deep on a moment, it was much more linear in a sense and didn't try as hard. And that's what made me like Dying Light 1's story. Not to mention it was just better overall. But Dying Light 2 is still by no means a bad game. It is still insanely fun, but it is not in my top 5. It's good, but it's not in my top 5. The next honorable mention on my list is Days Gone. So, I'm going to tell you quite a bit about Days Gone because I have quite a couple of things I like and quite a couple of things I dislike. One of the things I dislike is Deacon. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think Deacon is an insanely boring protagonist because he's just so uninteresting. To me, he's just kind of a knockoff Daryl Dixon. But not only that, bro, I just couldn't connect with any of the fucking characters, and I could really care less about Deacon's relationship with his fucking wife. And since I played on the PC version, it was insanely buggy at moments, and I really disliked that. But I will also tell you about some things I disliked because it's an honorable mention for a reason. I loved Days Gone's gameplay mechanics and riding motorcycles and shit because that was so fun. It had no reason to be so fun, but it was. Not to mention how beautiful the map was because it had an insanely, and I mean insanely beautiful open world. I loved it. And I also kind of liked the zombies in this game. The zombies were kind of cool, and especially when they would all bunch together and it would be insanely hard to fight them off. That was crazy. Days Gone, while I think it's about a 7 out of 10 game in my opinion, like I said, it's not a bad game. But for some reason nowadays, I guess a 7 out of 10 is a bad rating. But Days Gone, not a perfect game, but I would recommend. If you like motorcycles, you like kind of boringish bikers, and you like nice gameplay mechanics and shit like that, then you'll like Days Gone. Okay, so I already know I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this honorable mention, as I have it in honorable mentions and not top 5. But it's still an honorable mention. I like it a lot. I love it. It was, like most of the top 5 games, a big part of my childhood. Call of Duty Zombies. I can already hear you guys typing away in the comment section, ready to crucify me, but let me explain. Call of Duty Zombies, I love. I don't really consider it a game, though. It is a game mode. But in that sense, I love Call of Duty Zombies. It has always been a part of my childhood, and I always played the crap out of it. It is amazing. I love it. But the reason why I have it in honorable mentions and not a top 5 is because simply it's just got so much worse over time. Call of Duty Zombies used to have so much flavor to it and so much personality to it, and now it just kind of feels empty. Don't get me wrong, I liked Cold War, and I think the Black Ops 6 Zombies looks fine. But we can't forget stuff like Black Ops 4, Call of Duty Vanguard, and as well as Modern Warfare Zombies, because they're just so lifeless. And even Cold War, while I like it at moments, it just feels like Warzone Zombies. And that's coming from a guy who likes Cold War Zombies. COD Zombies overall just deteriorated over time, and that's why I can't put it in the top 5. It just got worse over time. But by no means is it bad, because like I said, I grew up on these games. World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare Zombies was so good. And, you know, surprisingly, I actually really enjoyed World War 2 and Advanced Warfare Zombies. I thought they were all pretty fun. But Call of Duty Zombies, I can't put it any higher than top 5. Or not top 5. I can't put it in the top 5. It's going to stay an honorable mention. If you dislike that, that's completely fine. I get it. But we move on to the next honorable mention and the final honorable mention. Now, the last honorable mention is something I will be naming before I get to the number 1 spot. But this game, it's an insanely good alternative to Call of Duty Zombies. I think it's a stellar game, and I can't wait for the 3rd one, and that's Killing Floor 2. Killing Floor 2 is what Call of Duty Zombies would look like if it had its own solo game, which, by the way, I wish it did have its own solo game, but Activision doesn't like us. They only like money, even though I feel like this would still make them a good handful of money if they made like a little side project of a COD game. But anyway, getting back to topic, Killing Floor 2. There's so much to like about this game. Its maps are absolutely great. They're very nice, good layouts, and the game mechanics are good. The gunplay is very smooth. Like the gunplay and the animations, they're beautiful. And not to mention, the zombie variety in this game is absolutely sick. You got the flesh pounders, you got the Scrakes, you got these weird fucking robot things, and I believe like 5 rounds, you fight a giant boss zombie, and they're all very different from each other, but either way, Killing Floor 2 has so much personality, so much soul, so much flair, and I cannot wait to see what comes of Killing Floor 3, because I love the second one, so let's just hope that I can love the third one. And I mean, I'm still a tad bit skeptical, even though they're different companies. Payday 3 makes me very skeptical of trilogies. So, but yeah, let's just hope that Killing Floor 3 delivers and it doesn't poop. But yeah, on to the next game, which is the final on this list, the #1 spot. So, we have come to the final part of the video, of the list, and this game has just sat with me my whole life. Ever since I was insanely young, I played the absolute shit out of this game. I played it with my mother, I played it with my brothers, I played it with friends, and I still play it to this day. And that game is Left 4 Dead 2. That game has... wow. It's just... wow. It has so much oomph on it, bro. I love all the characters, even the shitty ones, I love them. I love everything about this game. The simplistic gunplay, the enemy, like the zombie variety, the campaigns, they're all great. And it still has a very active community today. But let me tell you one of the things I really adore about this game that many other games try to replicate, but they don't do it as well. And it's the AI director. The AI director basically dictates how your game is going to go. And it's all different every single time you play the game. So no matter how many times you play a campaign, it's always going to be relatively different. Depending on how fast you move or how slow you move or how you play, the AI director will start making moves on how the game is going to turn out. Say you're moving through the game hella fast, boom, a tank's going to spawn. Overall though, Left 4 Dead 2, it has so much flavor, so much to just offer. And what's crazy is this game came out in 2009, and I think its last content drop came out in 2019. So yeah, this game, I mean, it doesn't get any content anymore, but you always got the Steam Workshop. But Valve, if you're listening to this, which I doubt, but if you're listening to this, you fucking make Left 4 Dead 3, you bitch. I need that shit in my life. That shit's like drugs to me. I need it bad. But overall, that is my list for my top 5 zombie games, as well as honorable mentions. If you like this video, like it, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that'll be all. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.